Hello again, my name is Eric Keller with Interventional Initiative, and welcome to Module 6, where we're going to talk about a final collection of topics and issues that can affect our relationships with patients and how best to navigate them. So one of those topics is managing complications. Anyone who does procedures is going to have some complications. We and our procedures are imperfect, and we sometimes end up causing harm. And when that occurs, it can be tempting to hide and avoid interacting with patients and families. We tend to feel guilty or may fear litigation. When a complication occurs, patients and families often are really seeking an explanation of what happened, what can be done about it, what can be done to avoid it in the future. So it's helpful to talk to patients and families and try and answer those questions and even apologize if appropriate. This actually tends to decrease lawsuits because it decreases the likelihood of patients feeling as though you've abandoned them or trying to hide something. In addition to our patients that were harmed by the procedure, we also need to take care of ourselves and our colleagues. When a complication occurs, it can be really distressing to clinicians and staff involved in the case. And we'll discuss the second victim phenomenon in this module as well. Another issue that can arise in our practices is VIP care. Feeling compelled to provide extraordinary care or attention to certain patients due to their social status or relationships. Think of a celebrity, a public figure, or a family member of the CEO of the hospital where you work. All patients have human dignity and deserve a standard of care. It is not inherently wrong to pull strings for a family member or be extra attentive to a major donor to the hospital. But such VIP care can be wrong if it in any way jeopardizes that standard of care that other patients deserve. We should also be wary of VIP care because, ironically, this excess attention can lead to over-testing and even worse outcomes in some studies. Finally, this module is also going to discuss conflicts of interest and how these can affect our relationships with patients. Now, conflicting interests is a common and natural part of professional life, both financial and otherwise. The issue isn't so much the existence of conflicting interests, but the potential undue bias they can cause. The fear is really that because of some conflict of interest, financial or otherwise, we're going to treat a patient in a way that is riskier or not as good because of that conflicting interest that's compelling us to do so, that we might be blind to that bias. Now, dealing with conflicting interests, we mainly have focused on disclosure as a medical community, which is helpful. It's helpful to disclose our conflicts of interest to let others then balance that potential bias. But disclosure does not equate with resolution, and I still think that it's worth being thoughtful and creative about other potential ways that we could better manage conflicts of interest as a medical society. How can we still leverage those productive relationships with our industry partners while protecting against that undue bias? And I think there's more work to be done in that space. Now, when we're interacting with patients, I also think that disclosure can be helpful in and of itself. And there's actually been studies showing that patients find you more trustworthy when you disclose potential conflicts of interest or relationships with industry. Maybe saying something like, I tend to use this venous stent because I'm very comfortable with it and think that it provides better outcomes. I actually even have a relationship with the company that makes it where I go and give talks for them, talking to other clinicians about using this stent because of how much I believe in it. So this module concludes our iCONSENT curriculum. We hope that you have found it helpful in elevating your interactions with patients and families. If you have a moment, please let us know your thoughts on how we can improve this resource. And thank you so much for helping us make informed consent an informed choice.